I'm Kurt Smith, of the flower market. You're in the flower market. I've been here for 24 years now, and bonsai is what we're going to talk about. On indoor bonsai, these are all tropical plants for growing them inside. This is a example of a narrow-leaf ficus, and I've had this tree for 24 years. It's the only tree, one of two now, out there that say not for sale on it. All the rest of them are for sale, because I've had this one so long. I started this one and it was about the size of my thumb. And it's not a great tree, but it's my tree and I've had it a long time. So how do you get a bonsai like this? And I'm going to do a little bit of what I call show and tell. I'm going to set this one aside.
Hey Kurt, I like your ceiling.
Isn't that pretty?
Yeah.
We start with material. This is the same type of plant. It really hasn't had much training or any training. So when you pick out a plant, you have to look at it and say, you know, what can I do with it? This tree, the trunk is probably too tight, it won't bend. This you could bend down, you know, and do a branch, make a top like this. But it's never going to be a really great tree. You know, this is just a lot of died back, and so I look at this and I think, what would I do? So what I would do is just take my cutters and pretty much start over and cut it off. So then at this point there's nothing else to do. But wait, so I would put that back in the greenhouse.
Wow.
Just trying to figure out how to...
Yeah, real easy.
I got that down.
Yeah.
I could do that. I got that one down.
If you look close on this one, there's all kinds of little sprouts on it. I'll pass it around because this was done last month at the Rotary Club. Same demonstration. This tree looked that way probably last spring. You know, and this has just pretty much been allowed to grow, and now it looks like something. You know, there's a little tree in there, there's some branches, and you know, there's somewhere to go with it. So the next step, prune it up and put it in a pot. So then it would look like this. And this one has been in a pot pretty much since last fall. I think I did it in the fall. And it was the same thing, and if you look close in the back, there's a big cut. And almost all your really big trees that you see are going to have a cut. So the one way to make a small tree is to start with a bigger tree. You start with one that's a lot bigger, make it smaller, it's going to look more significant faster. If you start with, like what we're going to do tonight, little ones, you can wait 24 years and grow it like the one I have. So this one, I have two more.
Oh, so this is just resprouting.
This one's a little more refined. Same thing. Yeah, there's a big cut in the back. It was a little bit fatter tree, but this is going to be a really nice little tree. And these are all the same variety. And our little ones that we're going to do eventually could look like this. You know, very much straight up with some nice branches. And this one, it's been pruned obviously quite recently. And I just potted it the other day. So it got pruned really hard. And it doesn't hurt them to do this. And if you come back next week, there'll be all kinds of little pops just like on that stump that I passed around. And, you know, within a month it'll be looking like this, I would guess. So this is a really nice tree, and eventually your little one could look like this. So what are we going to do? I need one of these.
Turn them off.
First of all, when you get your tree, You know, we're gonna style it, we'll pot it. What are you gonna do with it when you take it home? What I recommend is to put it in a north or east window, right in the window. So it should be, you know, as long as you don't get cold drafts or your windowsill doesn't get real cold. It should be right in the window because they need good light in order to grow really well. It's going to be in the bonsai soil, which is, there's no nutrient value at all, so you have to fertilize them. And it's very porous, so it dries out fairly quickly. So you want to, when you water it really well so it's soaked all the way through, and then wait for it to dry out again. And everyone wants to hear, you know, twice a week or 3 times a week. I tell everyone you should check it every day, water it when it needs it. You know, might not need it every day. If it's rainy and cloudy, you might not need it. But in the middle of the winter when your heater's running more, it might need it. You know, so there, it changes with the seasons, so you really need to check it every day. Water and light are the 2 biggest keys of keeping these alive. As they grow, you can see this is real tight, this is nice and this one's all wide. So you can see where the new growth is. So as it starts to lose its shape, you need to prune it back. And just any sharp pair of garden scissors or regular, I guess they're on the table somewhere, scissors, will work just fine to prune them back. And you just keep cutting it and keep your shape. It's not hard. What else? So these are real straight, and I think I would leave the trunk real straight. What you're looking for are the little branches. A tree, if you think of an old tree out in the field, the big old branches kind of come down a little bit. And the higher you get up in the tree, they're a little bit more upright. See, this tree, they're not quite as far down, but these are a little more upright. So you've got your big old branches, and first thing to do is find the base of your tree, which is about there. And quite often this gets real fat right in there. Ideally, you would have alternating branches, you know, one on one side and one, and that would be great if your tree had it, but they don't always have that. So you have to start picking out ones that you like. And this one kind of does. And I'm kind of thinning this out, simplifying it a bit. Can you kind of see the branching in here? Mm-hmm. There won't be a lot left. I'm a believer that you cut the tip out of every growing part on these. Plants are apical dominant, so wherever you don't cut them, that's where it's going to want to grow. So if you go and cut the tip out of every one of them, it kind of confuses the plant and it forces new growth all over it. So there's a little tree. It's not a lot, but it's there. Now you could, this wire's a little thick, take a piece of wire, and this is how we would normally train them. You put it on the branch. Maybe.
What kind of wire is that for?
This is copper colored aluminum, so it's fairly easy to bend. See, and then I can kind of pull those down, bring them in a little bit.
What number?
There's numbers for the
This is one.
one.
Yeah, it's really thin.
Now, okay, you have that on the tree. Do you leave it on there forever and ever? I see this one has.
That one I just wired the other day. As
Okay.
this grows, it would cut into the wire.
Okay,
So you don't really want it to cut into the wire.
so then you do clip it
You
off.
would need to take it off, depending on how fast it grows, maybe a month, maybe 2 months.
So it takes like a month for it to remember that it's bent like that?
Yeah, once you give it its shape and it grows some, then it should stay.
Yeah.
If it's cutting into it, definitely, then you need to take it off. If you take it off and the branch goes back up, then just put it on
And
again.
wind it back in.
But then it won't be cutting in. And I kind of pulled this piece up straight, so that's the top of my tree. And I'm thinking right here is the front, so these guys are going to kind of come at you a little bit. I got a nice little one in the back. So then the next thing we would do, and I'll get it with you. These are our pots. A little big for this tree, but not bad. It'll give it some room to grow. There's little screens. Every bonsai pot should have a hole in it. So you put your screen in. This is my soil mix.
You don't need to wire the screen in this one?
No, these don't go outdoors. So I want to remove all this soil and put in the new soil. Got lots of chopsticks. And they should break up fairly easy.
There we go.
And a good rule of thumb, if you remove 50% of the top, you ought to be able to remove 50% of the roots, right? So you shake it a little bit. We want to get all this dirt. See, there's a big root there actually, or a trunk, part of the trunk.
And that's good to kind of leave out, isn't it?
Yeah, you let that come out. But a lot of times that keeps growing. So when I prune it, I'm going to cut the end off of that so that it'll branch out more and not get really fat. If you look at my tree, should have left them out here.